Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Man to Man podcast. We're so glad you are here with us today, y'all. And we are glad to simply be back. It's been over a month now. And I think we good. You good?
I'm good. We here. We
We
here.
here. We
We
here, man. Life been lifing and things been happening, but we ready to roll,
we
man.
back.
And so we back in the business. And so dude, how you doing, man? You good?
Man, life been lifing. August was August. Kids back in school though. The
Hey,
kids back in school, and yeah, you hear it's quiet. I think the last video, kids was in the background going crazy, crying, screaming, all the things. So I got
dude,
my peace of mind. And that
dude,
might sound
I
like something, but any parent will understand and know when the kids
man,
in school, man.
hey, man, we I was going back listening to our last live stream we did, and I was just going towards the end trying to catch up with what we're gonna do today, man. And your crew was in the background wild.
Lit, lit.
I don't even remember them being that loud when we was recording.
Yeah, they have their moments now. They have their moments. We always got to teach them inside voices, but yeah, it's been great for it to be quiet like it is. But yeah,
Man, that's cool. Yeah, we baby girl, man, she be back to school in a minute. We they go back to school in July now. It's ridiculous here.
man,
So this whole year round idea is different, but that's what she's used to. That's all she's done, and so that's what she's gonna be used to.
man,
So yeah,
perfect.
man. Again, thank y'all for tuning in to this episode of the Man to Man podcast. We have been going through this book right here, The Five Love Languages by Gary Chapman. This has been a pretty good book. We talked about how last time we are going through this book and it's challenging us as men of God to just do better. We went through this book ourselves, our wives, we have went through as couples, um, and even today, after almost 13 years
Still
of marriage
need it.
with me, how many years y'all been together?
9.
20
Yeah, we've
years, huh?
been. Yeah, I feel like we've been together for 12. But no, actually, I'm sorry. She just looked at me and had made
Uh-oh.
some words.
Uh-oh.
Uh, with the 13, 12, something like that. It was perfect timing.
My bad, man. I just got you in trouble, man. She was like, she in the background, like, really? Really? So,
That's
but
hilarious.
yeah, man, even with us not necessarily being veterans in this thing, but being married for I would say a long time, because a lot of marriages today sadly don't make it very long,
Mm,
especially not to that 10-year mark, man.
mm.
And so but there's still things we're learning, still things that we're challenging ourselves with in this book. And so if you want to get this book, and if you have not seen any of our other videos, make sure that you watch those past lives. We also have little snippets of those lives on our actual podcast on iTunes and Spotify. And we have a link if you're watching this on YouTube, and if you're watching this on Facebook, we have a link down below that sends you directly to this book. You can get a digital copy, physical copy. You can get a Kindle copy. We can get I don't know what other kind of editions they have. I think they have audio book. They have all
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
So click the link below so you can get that, man. We'll get a little kickback from that, man. We get about a quarter a piece
Get a
right
little
there. Oh,
kickback. Hey, that's more than as an artist. That's more than you
yeah,
get
well,
on stream. So hey,
I don't know how
please,
much we get actually, because ain't nobody clicked the book. So I'm gonna need y'all to help us out, figure it
please.
out.
If you
So we
watching
can
right
help
now.
us with it, right?
Yeah.
Something is better than nothing, man. That's how we roll. But
Mm,
anyway, man, we've been taking our time, obviously going through this book.
yeah.
And today we're specifically going to talk about the love language of receiving gifts.
Yeah.
Receiving gifts. Now, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, man. This is not one of those chapters that just stood out to me. It's like, man, this gonna be good. This gonna make a good podcast episode. But I think, man, as we dive into it, there are
Yeah.
some essential things in here that I think we can hold on to. It's not as sexy, it's not as like glamorous as some of the other stuff we talked about so far, but I think it's important, especially if your wife, since it's the Man to Man podcast, especially if your wife is one who likes to receive gifts. We can't use the excuse that we're not good at giving gifts. We can't
Yeah.
use the excuse that we've given bad gifts in the past. If that's your wife's love language and you know that, We just need to work on them, man. We need to work on it. And
That's
so,
good.
one of the first things, man, one of the first things that Gary talks about, Dr. Gary, in this chapter, is he talks about how receiving gifts is a physical reminder of the love that you have for that person. The story that he told on this in this thing, it was a story. He changes all the names of all these people in his book, but it was a young man who went on his first date with his girl, and they both enjoys baseball. They both liked the game of baseball. I think they were having like a picnic or something like that, and then like a home run hit. Homeboy, like like a hero, grabs his bare hand, and a few weeks later, he gets that baseball. He gets it put into like a little collectible
Mm,
case, gets an
mm,
autograph or with something special and sweet on it. And it's something that they had, and that was their first date. It was the first thing he gave her, and they've been married for a while, and it's something that she looks at as like a sign of their love. And so, reading through this chapter, man, like I knew that, right? I
yeah.
knew that the idea or the importance of gifts, but I don't think even reading through this the first time really thought about like really how important gifts are,
Yeah.
right? How important it is to receive something, especially if that's your love language, and it be something that's really, really meaningful to you, man. And so,
Yeah.
man, just kind of general thoughts on the first part of this chapter, man. What some things that you kind of stood out to you?
Yeah. I think the thing that stood out to me was the truth that gift giving transcends cultures, and I think that reality of like no matter where you find yourself in culture, society, or time, gifts have always been a way of expressing love, and so that being one thing. But then the other thing that I thought like was like, oh, like I get it, like gift giving is a tangible thing that you can hold, to say or to see a symbol of saying like this person was thinking of me.
Right.
And I think that intention and that thought just makes the world a difference. And I think I get it. I'm not a person where my top love language isn't gift giving, but I think when people do give gifts and they're gifts that like I want to receive,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or I mean even like the times that I've gotten gifts that I didn't think I wanted, but they were intentional, and it just seemed as if this person was thinking intentionally of me. Those gifts have meant the most, and I felt the most loved and cared for, even though gift giving isn't like my top thing. And so, like, I don't know, like reading the chapter, it just kind of, because I think to the same point, like for me, I'm just like, yeah, gift giving is just one of those things. It's just one of those acts of love that some people like it, some people don't. I'm not necessarily one. My wife isn't either, so it's not like a strong suit for us. But I've seen it benefit my relationship with my wife throughout the years. And I've also been benefited when the gifts were given in a way where it's like, man, I know this person thought of me. And now this is a reminder every time I see it. I think at the beginning of the chapter, he talked about, how rings are symbolic in marriages. And he gives an example of a marriage that was on the rocks.
Mm,
And, the husband didn't want to pick up the rings off the ground that the wife threw because it was like this reminder that things weren't well.
right.
Because this symbol of love, she is not connected to her anymore. It's not tied to her. She's not wearing her ring, which means
Right.
something has gone wrong. And so, yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's like it means more than what I think. And it's more valuable at times than what we don't give it the credit that it deserves. But gift giving is essential. And yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point in this conversation because we always get to it. But the spiritual implications, and as believers, I don't want to go there yet because it's just a lot. It's a lot there that I'm like, man, we can talk about it. But
Yeah.
general thoughts as far as the beginning, it was those thoughts for sure.
Yeah, man. One thing that I like that he said was the what you said was how gift giving transit I can't remember the word, but it
Transcends, yeah,
transcends. There it is. Look at you
yeah,
being all
cultural
smart.
barriers or something like that. He said,
Cultural, yeah, stuff, man. I just returned. We did a 2-week mission trip in Africa, man, which is awesome on itself, man. It's pretty cool. And when we got ready to leave, they gave us gifts. Like they
Mm,
made a whole big deal about it. They called us up on stage and they
wow.
wrapped us with these I forgot what they're called, like some kind of like cloths that like the Maasai warriors used to wear or they do wear and stuff
Come
like
on.
that.
Yeah.
And it was they gave all the main like pastors and leaders like this kind of like staff thing, and it was all symbolic and it all represented their appreciation for us taking time out of our lives to come and be with them. And it's something like I got to hang it up in my office, man. Like it's gonna help me remember that time. It's gonna help
Wow.
me remember that space I was in during that week, man. So it's pretty cool. And I think another thing too, we may be jumping the gun a little bit. We may get into this a little bit. Is that it's not necessarily the quality of a gift. If your wife, this is the Men podcast, right? If your wife's love language is receiving gifts, then most likely she's not really caring about the quality of the gift
Yeah.
over what it actually means, right? Like just because you got her a rose instead of like a $1,000 purse, like she gonna appreciate the rose too. She ain't gonna be like, dog, man, I really wanted
Yeah.
that Birkin, man. I don't feel appreciated unless you
Yeah.
spend a small loan on this, unless you
That's
open up a small loan on this purse. Like, no, like if
well,
that's
that's
her
the
true
thing.
gift, right? It's
Yeah.
it's the thought that counts. Like that whole
Yeah.
idea of that phrase,
Yeah.
like that really means more to her if
Yeah.
that's the thing, man. And
Yeah.
one thing I know for me, you go ahead. What you about to say?
Well, no, I was just thinking about the point that he made in the chapter is like you got to be thinking about somebody to give a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that no matter what the value of it is, I think that when we do practice that, like it does communicate that to our spouses, and that's a beautiful thing. And that's a thing that we all desire as human beings is to be thought of, to be loved, to belong, to be cared for. And so I think that when we do that, like those are the things that like coming out of that moment. And so really big. That's all I was gonna say. I was like, man, yeah, like wifey, hey, it might not be a Birkin, but it's close. But I was
Right,
thinking about you,
right.
and I knew this is something that fills your tank.
Yeah, man. And that's it, it all boils down to just this whole book, man. It's really just learning your spouse,
Yeah,
learning who they are. If you've never went through this book before, it's an amazing thing to go through so that you can better know how to love
yeah,
your spouse.
yeah.
And I know one thing, like my wife and I, we talked about. It's funny because she brought it up. We were talking about gifts and stuff like that, and she didn't know we were going to go to the chapter, but she talked about how she doesn't necessarily like that's not her love language, like to receive gifts. Like she likes other ways of being loved, but
Hmm.
it still doesn't change the fact that she actually likes getting gifts. It's not like I get her a gift. She like, man, this ain't my love language. Get this out of my face, right?
Yeah,
She's still gonna appreciate it. She's still gonna feel love. But it's still worth us going after. It's still worth us pursuing,
mm,
especially if you don't know, right? Figuring it
yeah,
out as you go. Um, I know for me, man, like one thing is it's not my love language, right? My wife would probably like tell you like I'm the hardest person to buy gifts for, and it's something I'm working on. I'm just be honest with y'all, man. It's something I'm working on. I'm a little bougie, right? And I'm just like I want certain types of things. So like my wife is just like Christmas and birthdays, she's just like, you just get whatever you want. Cause I just give up, right? Because I make it so difficult because I just like I know
yeah,
what I want. And it's not that I'm not appreciative, right? But it's just like I'm not good at like hiding the fact that hey, I might not like this gift.
yeah,
It's a little whack, you know what I'm saying? My wife has had to talk to me like with family members and even with her, she's just like, dude, like I just need you to tell me, and then you can
right,
just ask prize, right? It's just like what you want. It's just gonna be what it is, right? Um, but that ties into one of the parts he talks about. Kind of skipping ahead a little bit, is even if you're not a good gift giver, right? Does that give you an excuse not to lean
yeah,
into this if that is your spouse's love language? Kind of
yeah.
jumping ahead. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I know he said, and I had a little initial pushback, but I get it. He said, you know, gift giving is probably one of the easiest love languages to learn. And although it's the easiest love language to learn, it is not easy. It requires a level of intention and thought that a lot of men just don't have. And so we have to bring people in if we're gonna be able to do this well. And so I think, you know, he gives some, you know, different things to, you know, actually consider and advice to give as far as like, hey, ask some other people.
Right.
I don't know what just happened. I'm sorry.
So
My screen
yeah.
saver just went on as we were talking in the middle of that. But yeah, that's wild. I tried to change the settings beforehand. But anyways, yeah, I think that, you know, bringing other people in, friends, family. But you also got to think like this has got to be people that like know your wife and know what she likes, and not just like, you know, anybody, because anybody can say something, and it could be the little brother be like, hey, you know, I think she likes, you know, games and candy, and it's like, what? No, that's
Right.
what you
She like
like.
Fortnite.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, no, that's not helpful. That's not good. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think about all of those different things in regards to, yeah, it requires work for a lot of men, and for some men it don't. Like for me, I feel like that's something that I love to do. I love giving gifts. I don't just give gifts that, you know, I know that my wife likes. Sometimes I'm like, I know she would like this. Maybe it's not on her list or anything like this, but
Yeah.
I just know her, and I think that this would be an amazing. And it's always like, wow, like I didn't even think that I would want this, but thank you. Although I want my wife sometimes to think like that for me. Um, but I think she's gotten better. Like I've got to give her credit too, because I think when it comes to gift giving, we started off kind of rocky, and she hates when I tell the story, so I'm not going to tell the story. But there was a story out there of a gift that she gave one time, and it was just kind of like, It's hard for me not to show it on my face. Thank you. I don't know what to say right now, but yeah, I think that that's the thing.
We might have to start a Patreon page where we tell
Man, well, we can tell all the dirty,
get
yeah, just
permission. We get permission from our wives. Be like, yo, y'all can get a
facts,
cut if you let us tell
facts,
these stories, man.
facts.
Just saying,
Here's a
we
thought
might
though,
need to have
bro,
those.
that I
Yeah.
just had as we were joking. Like I think that sometimes like we have a desire to give gifts because it's something that we want, and I think gift giving can't be a thing that we use to try to get what we want. Because I
The
think
tit for
that
tat
it
type of thing.
yeah, too many
Yeah.
times. Like it's like I'm gonna do this for you because I want you to do this for me. And although I think that when we do begin, and I think you can say that for any love language, it's like,
Right.
man, I want to make sure so I can get this, so it can be reciprocated back to me. But I think as men of God, like we've just been called to love. Like we've been called to be servants of the household, to sacrifice, to die. And I know those are things that people don't like. And I can see it in the comments on YouTube, people saying, you know, who are these busters that's submitting to their families and loving them sacrificially? But it's an example and a model of Jesus. Jesus didn't die on the cross thinking that it would be reciprocated back by every single human
Right.
being. And so for us, in the same way as we live to, you know, love our spouses, and if gift giving is part of their love language, then we're working hard and trying to learn what it looks like to do that well. So I think we got to think about that, man, because hey, we selfish, and we'll bring that thing right back even in the act of trying to love our spouse.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing too, man. I think naturally that's what we want, even as kids. Like I get this, so you can get this, or whatever, or like, hey, this is like I gave you a good gift. Now it's time for you to give me a good
Yeah,
gift. But
yeah,
like we talked about plenty of times on this podcast, man, like our responsibility as the men of God who lead our families is to make sure that we are leading in a servant type of attitude. Like that's our main goal, is
yeah,
to serve our wife, is to serve our family, lead them well. And if we're doing this for any other reason but to make them feel loved, man, it's not gonna be good, man.
yeah,
Um, and one thing he talks about right here, I wrote this down. He talks about not limiting your gift giving to like a certain type of time of the year, right? Like
yeah,
only on her birthday, only on anniversaries, only on Christmas and stuff like that. But finding different ways. And I think he told the story about a man who his wife had expressed to him about gift giving. Used to give me stuff when we were dating and stuff like that. A homeboy laughed at her like, "Girl, chill out. Like, come on.
Was
Like,
that our boy Don? Was Don his
I
name?
think it was
Or
somebody
Jim?
somebody in
Don or Jim? One of them jokers.
Jimmy boy. And so he was talking about it. He was just like, I pay all the bills, I get all this, you got a nice car, you always got a new car. And she was just like, I mean, yeah, that's nice, but
Yeah.
like, where's the love and all of this, right?
Mhm.
And like he started doing simple stuff, like instead of you know, cooking. I think he was like, one example they gave where he was just like, "Hey baby, how about we just go out and get pizza tonight,
Get
right?
some pizza.
How about I
Yeah.
how about I bring pizza home? How
Got the
about
drones.
instead of doing all this kind of stuff, man, instead of you having to cook, instead of you have to do that, and
Yeah.
bringing like treats to her and the kids from their favorite cookie spot and stuff like that. It was just little things that weren't necessarily expensive gifts, but
Yeah.
that showed love not only to his wife but to his kids. Like they got
Kids.
excited
Yeah.
about daddy bringing them things, and the wife was just like, "Man, this is a brand new man. Like, who is
Yeah.
this guy?"
Yeah.
Right? It was a
Consistent.
simple shift that he
Yeah.
made, and he said, he challenged himself for like 5 weeks. He was gonna buy her a gift, and I think it was one point he talked about it kind of got expensive, so he started to do like weekly things, and so
Yeah.
he was like, my goal at the end of the year is for her to have 52 gifts from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That she had last, when we
5
started
years
dating.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. And it was just simple stuff, man. And their marriage just exploded in a good way, where they
Yeah.
just had a different connection with each other and stuff like that, man. So, not limiting your gift giving to a special occasion,
Yeah.
but just something that lets them know, hey, I'm just thinking about you, right? Even if
Yeah.
it's not their main love language, I still stand on that, right? That even if it's not their main love language, this is still a good practice
Yeah.
to have,
Yeah.
right? Unless they just
Yeah.
tell you this is too much, stop, this is annoying, then you just, which I doubt that they would do that, right?
What I love about that story though, man, or the hope that I have in that story. Like he made a commitment to try to do it for 5 weeks, ended up doing that. But I think it ended up being like when they ended up having the conversation with Dr. Chapman,
Yeah.
it was like 3 years later. And it's like he's been consistent for 3 years. And I'm like, saying to myself, sometimes you'll say in this fight or this pursuit of loving your spouse is like, is it possible? Can I do this for the long haul? And hearing that, like him be consistent for that long, it's like, oh, you can do it. And he's been doing it every week. May not be every day, and it might not always be him spending money, but like he's been committed and consistent. And he's like, I think one of the things he told his wife was, by the Lord's help, I can do it. And I think being reminded of that, like this is not something that you're doing in your willpower. Like you need God's help. And that's the beauty of being a believer, is that we have the Spirit of God present with us, helping us to love, helping us to bear the fruits of the Spirit, not just in our relationship with the Lord, but in our relationships with others, including our spouses. And so that was a cool thing. But then I think the other thing that I was thinking about is we're having this conversation about like making an intention to love and it not being seasonal. I think that sometimes what can happen in our relationships, in our marriages, is that after some time, right? Like once the honeymoon phase is over with, you go from it being fresh and relational to now it's transactional. Like we're just doing the things just because. And whenever it gets to that point, like it's like, man, there's no real genuine intimacy and love that can be shown because you're just doing it just like this is what I gotta do, not what I get to do. It's like we need to wake up, and the Lord needs to help us to wake up every day and say, I get to love my spouse. And I need that even right now in this moment. Like it's like, I was thinking about something that we were talking about before we got on the live, me and my wife, and I'm like, you know what? Like she had to remind me, like, we're doing this together. And I'm like, sometimes it don't feel that way. But I think when we forget like the gift that our spouses are, we're less likely to serve and sacrifice and love in the ways that actually fill their tank and actually for the benefit of the marriage.
Right. And that's big, dude. That is big because dude, we'd be a mess with that otherwise, honestly. I don't know about you.
No, facts.
I don't know about you, but your boy ain't no telling where I would be. Let's just thank God for the wives right now. I wish I had sound
Praise,
effects
praise
that I
Lord,
can add right
praise.
there, man. Man, a couple of comments, man. I didn't have the comment section turned on over here, y'all. I'd like
Let's
to
go.
thank y'all for tuning in. I got my
Yeah.
mom, bro. She is like, that's her. She loves giving gifts. She gave my baby girl a gift for getting good grades on her progress report. It wasn't
Let's
even
go.
a full report card, bro. I'm talking about a bag full of stuff. My baby was showing me
Yeah.
stuff. I was like, what else is in there? It's like a Mary Poppins bag full of just stuff, lip gloss and everything. So
Oh
most
man.
definitely, that's my mom. She loves giving gifts. I think that's where I get it from. I love giving gifts. And then my wife, I guess this is when we were talking about opening up that Patreon to tell them secret stories right there. Boy,
Stuff to
we got some
tell.
stuff that we can tell,
Yeah.
man. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if we all agree, if we
Ah,
all agree, and we all on the same page, it's some stories that can help some people.
yeah,
I really
yeah.
do. It's ain't
That's real.
appropriate for everybody to hear. You know what I'm saying? So stuff there, and then I think I got my auntie and different people who are on here. So thank y'all for tuning in right
Men to
here.
men uncut.
Men to men uncut, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like, boy,
You
these
don't know what
bastards
you're gonna
crazy.
get. Oh man. Hey, it's funny though, as you were talking about your mom and gift giving and the things that we do for the kids. Like, I'm cheap. I know he talks about that. Like, at some point, you gotta realize
I
what's
mean,
the
when
worthy
you got 6 kids, bro,
when
you
you
got
got
no
said, well,
choice.
shoot, when I ain't had no kids, like, bro, it was just me and Tierra. I mean, when we got married, it was like, we got to put a lock on this budget. But just realizing the sacrifice at the end of the day, like what's more worthy of investing in. And that's not to say that you go and you just go crazy and just be spending money. But kind of to the story, like, hey, like we can buy pizza and it's a worthwhile investment. And he made a point that was so convicting, bro. He was talking about the guy that loves to save, and he was like, hey, in some ways, like this is you giving to yourself, and
Yeah.
you trying to find emotional security and all these different things, so even though you're the saver, you're still spending money, but it's going toward these certain things that's giving you more security and comfort. And so I was like, dang, so I'm guilty of the same thing. And so let me just go ahead, Lord, help me, sacrifice in the ways that will be beneficial, and to see like it's a worthwhile thing. Like,
Yeah.
just like I think saving money is a worthwhile thing, or making certain investments is a worthwhile thing. If my spouse love language is gift giving, it's a worthwhile
Right.
thing. And I think even if not, like I think that it's a good practice to have, to be a gift giver and to just say like, hey, I know this ain't your love language, but out of the overflow of my love for you, I can't help but like again, like going back to gift giving transcending cultural barriers. Like this has
Right.
always been, and I feel like it's a part of our wiring as humans. Like even like, okay, like we got to go there, bro. We got to go to the scriptures, because I think
Go ahead.
there
Go
are
ahead. Let's go.
spaces. All right, so let's just start at the beginning. Like in the beginning, in Genesis 1, we have the creation of mankind, the creation of the world, and God gives to mankind the fruit of the land. God gives to mankind
Yeah.
the beast, and all these things, and He says multiply. And so, like you see this reality of gift giving, even at the beginning, that like it's just wired into our DNA. And then we see the ultimate gift through Jesus. John 3:16. For God so loved, He
Bars.
loved, so He did what? He gave. I need
Bars.
organ in here. You know what I'm saying? But I think that it's one of those things that even if it's not something that's a part of your love language, it's something that you do if you do love somebody. And that's not saying that you go crazy all of the time, but it's saying when there's an overflow of love for someone, you are going to want to give them everything that you have. And so,
Yeah.
like, that's a reality that I think sometimes we probably need to check. Like, if we're not seeing ourselves, wanting to avail ourselves of this or live in this way, maybe it is because like there's something deficient in us as far as our love for our spouse. And again, that comment isn't to say that, that's the primary way to show love. No, I think it's an indicator to show that there's the presence of love. And if it's not there, then hey, we need to do some work. The Lord needs to help us so that we can live in that way. I don't know where we went there, how we got there, but we're here now.
No, dude, I think it's good, man. I think like you said, like we said earlier, I think I still think it's good practice, even if it isn't their main love language. Like you said, we don't have to go overboard, but the fact that somebody feels loved and appreciated by you showing that, hey, I see you, right? I
Yeah.
appreciate you in whatever way you see fit, however you want to give gifts, right? Gifts doesn't have to necessarily even be like a physical thing that you give them,
Yeah.
right? If we're gonna
Yeah.
kind of go in that way, but giving them like I think in the story, like the freedom of not having to cook dinner, by going to eat pizza, by not having to wash dishes, by you coming home and washing dishes. I know those aren't physical things that you can grasp, but that kind of stuff, man, they'll remember, man. Right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
ain't never hurt me to let my family go to bed and I just get a sudden urge to clean the house and my wife wake up to a clean house. She never said, "Well, I wanted to clean that." I was gonna wash them dishes in the morning. Like,
Hey,
no, it's appreciation. That's a gift, the gift of relaxation that I
I
give
just
to
said that to my wife a couple times. She done cleaned the house when I was supposed to clean it, and I'm like, I was wanting to do that. I appreciate you, but I know this is gonna come with.
Never a problem. Never a problem, boy.
Oh man, that's
I
that's
used
uh
I used to do the
that's
same thing when I was a kid, man. Like my mom probably can attest to this, man. I like for people to be surprised that I've done something for them, right?
mhm,
Like so
mhm,
like I wanted my parents to come home and be like, "Oh, the house clean." Right. So I get my siblings in line. They're like, "Yo, we gotta clean this house so mama can come home and she'll feel some kind of way about this. This is a gift that
yeah,
we can give her. Mama shouldn't have to come in here and be like, y'all been sitting around here, especially during the summer months. Y'all got this dirty, this, and that. Like, we don't want that, y'all. Let's clean up, right?" So I
yeah,
like the idea of them coming in and being surprised, like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting that. And
yeah.
I got this." And so it adds, relaxation, it adds certain things to them, man. It's pretty good. What else you gonna say?
Man, I was just thinking as we were talking about not having to necessarily pay for gifts, and probably one of the greatest gifts that you can give, especially if you think you all that in a bag of chips, is the gift of
Yeah.
presence. You know, and
Present.
just realizing like, man, just your presence here is a lot to me. And he shares the story of the couple who was going through it, and it was like the husband was always going to play softball, and it was like, hey, like, they have the baby, he playing softball. Her
Same.
mom died, he playing softball. And she's just like, remember those 2 times when she needed him the most, he was absent. When she needed the gift that she needed was his presence. And, them talking through that, working through that, and realizing like, hey, like the husband on his end, like to his, just to his argument, it was like, hey, when your mom died, like before she died, I took off a week, and when the baby came, I was there during the whole process. And I wanted to afterwards, once the baby came, I just wanted to tell the homies that I was playing softball with that we had a baby. I thought you'd be proud. And she's like, no, like in these moments, I needed you. There was these moments of grief and joy, and I needed you to work through the whole process of that. Like I didn't need you to just like, you need to be here and you need to see how important your presence is. And I think he gives another example where it was like a husband, something happened for a husband. He needed his wife, and I think the wife could only take off a couple of hours. Like her boss was just like, hey,
Yeah.
off a couple hours, and then come back. And she's like, nah, my husband need me. So this job, if I
Yeah,
lose my,
I think his mom or somebody had died or something like that.
hey, and she just like, hey, I'm willing to lose it all because my husband needs my presence, and that's the gift that I am to him in this moment. And I just think, man, the gift of presence is a huge. So don't think that there's a gift too small. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes the gift of presence for men is something that may be the hardest gift to give because we're so wired to think or be in so many other places and not just emotionally present and emotionally available. And that is a gift that you can give to say, like, hey, like, I know I have all of these things going on, maybe all of these things in my mind, but this time is for you. And I want to gift you my time. I want to
Right.
gift you my attention too. Like, hey, brothers, like, don't just be like, I'm here, but also like make yourself available mentally, emotionally, and to say, like, and I think that's the hardest thing. We were talking about this before too. You just
Right.
came from Africa. When you tired, You know, and I think the same thing for me. Like, you know, when I done had a hard meeting and, you know, just been doing a lot of pastoral work, I come home, I'm like, man, I just can't be mentally available. But again, loving our spouse is not something that we do within our own ability. It's like we need the help of the Spirit to be able to love them and to be available. And so I think those are awesome, amazing moments for us to go to the Lord and ask for the help that we need, that we've always needed, to be able to love him and love others. And so, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but bro, like, I think the presence is huge.
Yeah.
It's a gift.
Being there for just being there, like, is big. I just remember like difficult times like me and my wife we went through, man. I remember one particular instance, man, we were just there with each other. Like, wasn't a lot of words, wasn't a lot of things happening, but we both were going through a tough time, and just us being there with each other was important. Like, I there's still things I had to do for work. There was still things I had to do that was kind of difficult to kind of navigate. But I understood the importance of just being in the presence of my wife during that difficult time. And even if you don't know what to say, even if you don't know what to do, I think that's another thing, at least for me. I'm not gonna say for all men. It's okay to just be there. It's okay to just be in the presence of your wife. And just be there, right? We talked about this before playing on the podcast. Like, our wives don't necessarily want us to fix everything, right? They just want us to listen. Like, just shut up and listen, dude. Like, I don't want you to try to figure out the problem. I want you to go talk to my boss. I don't want you to go talk to my mama. I don't want you to go talk to my siblings. Please. I don't want you to fix this issue. I just need you to hear me fuss and complain, cuss a little bit, and get it out. And just be there with me, right? That's one thing that I've learned that's important, because like, I like fixing stuff, man. My dad taught me how to fix stuff since I was 12 years old. If something broke, I'm gonna fix it. And that's one thing that I learned with my wife. Like, that ain't the case, right? Unless she is physically, unless she is just blatantly asking me, hey, I want you to fix this problem, then my job is just to listen, right? And there's times where she's like, no, I need you to talk. I need you to give me an answer. I need you to help me out with this, and I need you to help me go through that. And I'm just like, all right, cool. Let's try to figure this thing out. Right? You know, but most of the time it's just like, just listen. Right.
Yeah, you know, I think that's good, bro, because I think there's a light point that he made in the chapter where he was talking about verbalizing needs and desires. And he's like, man, like, don't just expect your spouse to like magically. And I think sometimes like we need to know, like, hey, I don't need you to fix this right now. Like, I just need you to listen. And really, honestly, like, sometimes we just need to stop trying to be fixers and just like come to the presence, like, hey, like, I'm here. You know, if you want to hear from me, then you can hear from me. But I think sometimes I'll be thinking for my wife, and she's like, I didn't need you to do all of that right now. And like you said, then there's other times where it's like, I need you to speak into this. And so like that communication, I know this ain't about communication, but communication is a gift. Like, I think that it's always been a blessing to my marriage when we've been good at communicating. And it's always not been a gift when we did do a good job of communicating. It's like, man, like, we need to verbalize that. And I think even as we think about the other love languages, you know, like, hey, like, you know, what fills your love tank? And let me listen and let me apply it. Let me not just think that, oh, I think that, and I think I'm bad at this too, where, and I say too, I'm bad at this, where like, I would say, like, this is what my wife needs, because I know my wife, and I'll say, even I know my wife better than she knows herself. Like, I know her like in ways like she don't be thinking. I'm like, look, I'm just gonna help you out right now. Like, this is what you need. And she's like, no, that's not really what I need right now. And it's like, dang, this is what you needed, you know, 2 years ago. And it's like, well, a lot changed in 2 years. And so like, dang, I need to stop trying to, you know, actively do, and I need to actively listen, because like there's something that she's telling me, and I need to just go ahead and just be like, okay, like, this is what she wants. This is what she needs. She's verbalized that this is her desires. So how can I, you know what I mean? Like, help her and actually follow this train of thought that she has. So yeah, man, verbalizing, communication, a gift.
Dude, I tell you what, man, like, that's that's one of probably the most beneficial things in our marriage is
Mm,
communication.
mm,
Like beyond anything else, man, like it's a gift. And
yeah,
I realized I told my wife, man, not too long ago, man. I was like, I thank you for just being who you are, right?
yeah,
Like I thank you for like not being crazy, right? Just and just
yeah,
wanted to talk stuff out because there's so many things in our marriage that could just still just be festering and bubbling, and that could just be background drama that like if you touch it the wrong way, it just explodes. But
yeah.
we made a commitment so long ago. I know this has nothing to do with gifts, but we made a commitment a long time ago to just communicate and just to talk.
Oh,
Like
that's
just the
different.
other day, just we were both expressing frustrations that we both were feeling about certain situations, right? And we both were able to just like be real about how we were feeling and then come to a consensus of
Yeah,
like, okay, cool. We both frustrated, we both mad, we both have equal reason to be mad, but what we gonna do about it, right? Let's talk.
yeah. Mm,
Let's move on past this, right? And we can still be mad about that stuff, but we talked about it, we communicated, and I think that's something that I think a lot of people aren't good at, man. Because, like, I mean, you work at the church, right? You work with
yeah,
people, you work with
yeah,
couples, you work with married people all the time, and like a lot of the issues that I see, like with parents that I minister to, and couples that I minister to, it's just like, bro, y'all just need to talk, like
right, man.
say
It's
stuff, but
that
y'all
simple.
at each other instead of taking time to actually like really
Mm,
communicate. And so,
mm.
and we getting off of a
Not
whole
well. I don't think. I think it's so. This is what I was thinking of. I think communication is a gift. It is always going to be a benefit to a marriage and not a curse. I mean, you can't get unless y'all just communicating just to be wild and reckless. Like, hey, I'm gonna call you out because I think you trash. But communication is always a gift. But I also think that, man, I don't know if you've kind of thought through this, but I feel like the love languages kind of overlap, and they overlap in a lot of different ways. I think one way, even toward the end of the chapter, the guy was just saying like, hey, yeah, like I'm feeling it, and he's like, I guess Dr. Chapman asked him, do you feel like you're being loved? Like I know you're loving your wife. Do you feel like you're being loved? And he's like, yeah, like my wife is cooking, cleaning, she's doing all the things. And then he makes a joke, what my love language is. And it's like, yeah, I definitely know it's acts of service. Ultimately, is what he's getting at, which will be, I think, the next conversation. But it's like, man, when you do well in one or when you pursue one, it's like the other is not too far. Like I just know if acts of service is my wife's love language, which it is, and this is probably kind of getting off, but I'm gonna come back. I know that I'm going to get physical touch. I know that when I get physical touch from my wife, I'm going to be more willing. Hey, what you want, what you need, whatever it is, I got you.
anything.
I'll be a giver all day. You said you wanted a car. Okay, I got you. You want that
Right?
Birkin? I'm gonna get you a Birkin.
You gonna figure it out, man.
But I think there's overlap. So I don't think you ever, necessarily get too far away. Like, when we talk about communication, it's like, yeah, like that could definitely be a part of another love language or outside of gifts. But I think it's kind of one and the same. It's like we're pouring in, and like all of these different aspects of how we love our spouse is being impacted and affected, and you just can't help but yeah.
Yeah, man. So I ain't got much else for today, man. But just kind of give y'all a preview what we got coming up, man. We are on. We talked about quality time last not last week because it's been a whole month since we did it live. Last time talked about receiving gifts. We're gonna talk about acts of service next, and then the last one is physical touch, man. And then also in this book, it talks about actual I think it has a is it in this book or is it in a separate book where they actually have like a workbook?
Yeah, it's a
Is it
separate
it's a
workbook. But I
separate
think,
work?
I mean, each of these chapters have like questions and things, but there's an actual workbook that people can get.
Right. So we got the link. There it is. It's up. This the old version. I borrowed this from a friend. but I got a digital copy. I just can't physically hold the digital copy, obviously. But yeah, there's a link down below on Facebook, on Instagram. No, not Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. And so just make sure you do that, man. We got a couple other people, man. Somebody said, "What's up?" right here. I don't know. It looks like one of your
Robert.
homies, right?
Yeah,
There it is.
high school football teammate. What's up,
Okay.
Robert?
All right, cool. That's what's up, man.
Yeah.
All right. So anything else, man, you want to add to this as we close today?
Yeah,
I want
no,
to just set out just to be talking.
yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I think that, all the things that we talked about were on point, and I think for people to know, it's not the size of the gift that matters. It's not the price of the gift that matters. It's the aspect of giving and the heart behind it. Like, I just know that. Like, I think too many times we think too deep when it comes to gift giving, and we feel like it has to be this, it has to be that. And I think the posture and the heart mean the most. And there are things that you communicate through the things that you give. You know the things that you love too, by the things that you're willing to, pursue and purchase and buy and give. Like, it shows your heart. And so just
Yeah.
realize that. And yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's okay to talk about it too. I know, like, we like to, for me personally, I like to surprise my wife with things, but like, it's straight up like good to ask, like, what kind of stuff do you like? Especially if you haven't had this conversation before, because you sitting out here buying chocolates. She was like, I really don't like chocolate because of such and such and such, and you just assume all women like chocolate. Like, it's a conversation y'all need to have. And she might like handmade things. She might like
Yeah.
handwritten letters and notes and stuff like that. Like, it's okay to ask them and to do that. I think what messes us up, man. This is just a side note.
Yeah, let's go.
I think for men, right? I've seen that. I felt this temptation myself, but when we're challenged as men to make changes, like in this book and stuff like that, or when we hear a sermon or we go to a conference, like, for me, I'm gonna finish my thoughts. I'm gonna say it and hopefully it makes some sense. For the
Yeah,
last couple of weeks, our pastor has been talking specifically about how men should treat women and how women should treat men, and it all came from a biblical perspective, right?
yeah,
And there were a lot of things that could have been taken from both of those sermons that could have automatically been applied to your marriage, right? But I think as men, maybe it's just me, we feel like if we are making changes, that our wife is going to be like, you just doing that because the pastor was talking about it, right? Oh, you just doing that because we read this book. And it's like, yeah, like that's
yeah.
what we need to do.
Mm,
Like, and I guess my thing is for men, like, don't be afraid to make blatant changes.
that's good.
And like, that's okay. Like, if your wife is just like, yo, what you doing? Like, why you trying to do that? Why you being nice to me? Why you doing this? Especially if you have a history of things not going well. Like, it's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay to for them to see the effort. And hopefully, perfectly, your wife isn't like, man, you just trying to do this because you just trying to do this because you saw this in this book. You just trying to do this because the pastor talked about it. You just trying to do that, man. Like,
yeah,
even if she does that, like, still push forward. Because I think one thing for men is, like, we don't like to, like, fail. And so, like, if we make an attempt to do something and it's not met with the expectations we think, we're gonna be like, well, fine, then I ain't gonna do it no more, right? We get her a gift, she don't like it, so I bet, I bet you won't get another gift. I bet you won't. Right? But like, even pushing through that, man, like I think it says right here, it's one part in the book. He says, if she has been critical of your gifts in the past,
mm,
and almost nothing has given, nothing has been appreciated, maybe receiving gifts is not her love language.
man.
Like, but I still don't think, we should just, like, stop. Right.
Right,
I still don't
right,
think we should
right.
just stop if we're giving efforts and it's met with some type of confrontation. Like, it's still good to keep pushing.
Yeah, I think because you'll be surprised by the outcome. I think too often we do allow those things to keep us. And yeah, I think even like, the amount of the gift, sometimes they're like, we can't give our spouse this. And so like, we won't do it at all. It's like, well, she can't get the Birkin, so I'm not going to give her the Birkin. But I think
Right.
spiritual implications. I think that when we look at the gifts of the Lord, they aren't wrapped in ways that we expected, but they have been such a blessing and good for us. And I think it's the same way with our gift giving. Like, I think sometimes people might not expect the outcome or the response when you make the intention of giving a gift, even if it's like Buddy bought some cheap flowers from Buddy Mooney or whoever it was, and he was like, the wife knew where he got them flowers. She knew it was only 25 cents, but she was still appreciative of the effort. And I think sometimes, like, what our wives say too when they're like, this is weird, this is different, is that like I just hadn't seen you be consistent in this way. And I'm not sure if it's genuine, and I need time to figure out if this is genuine or not. And I think prayerfully and by the Lord's help, as you make that effort and you try and attempt to like give better gifts and be more consistent in that way, the heart is going to begin to change. And I think that that's the thing that we want. We want to begin to see the hearts of our wives begin to embrace the gift, because that's the thing that we're using to express love. And so hopefully, prayerfully for you brothers that may be struggling with it, that you don't allow those things to keep you. But yeah, embrace that. Embrace the failure that you have, and just know that it's good. It's okay. Like, don't let it allow you to stop. Do something.
Yeah.
So
my wife, man, she dropping bars in the comments, man.
Come on, let's go.
She know I read slow. So this is the one right here, man. It says this is encourages those receiving gifts. So it's important to be careful how you receive the gifts from someone who shows it as their love language. The rejection of their gift could be received as a rejection of their love.
Yeah.
And so
come on.
Yeah, we gotta be careful, man. Like I said earlier, like if it ain't what I want, my attitude has always been a negative, right? And my wife has called me out on that multiple times, right? And so we just gotta be careful with that, man. I'm trying to read the other stuff, man. She got going on right here.
Help us, Lord.
Let me see.
Help us out there, Mo.
Let me see right here. All right, if you notice their love language, so you have to be mindful. That's what any of the love languages, though.
Mm-hmm.
So be careful with all that stuff, man.
Write it down.
So yeah, man, that's good, dude. That's good. That's good stuff right there, man. We'd like to thank y'all for tuning in to this episode of Men to Men. You ain't got anything else, man? You good?
We miss y'all. It's good to be back.
Yes. So I looked at the calendar, man. We ain't did a live stream in a month and a week. Life and things be happening, man. We're gonna try to keep it going, man. We fell short with the shorts and the short form stuff, man. Dude, and so my dad, man, he said right here, spoiler alert, I've been married for 38 years, 8 months, and 6 hours.
Still learning.
Still learning. Man.
Never graduate.
It's an ongoing thing. Like I said, man, we like it's an ongoing thing. We talked about how we went through this thing right here, and we're still learning, right? We're still learning this stuff right here. And it's challenging us. We ain't been married for almost 40 years, but I mean, like, almost halfway there, right? That worked. So, and my wife said she missed us this summer, man. Summer was crazy. I'm just say the summer.
Man, crazy, man. We would just survive.
we might have to do some like pre-recorded ones and just put them out for y'all, man. When life just hit. So
Patreon, anyway, join the Patreon.
We need to do something, man. Hey, a little incentive, man. Get us more consistent. So yeah, we got stuff coming up, man. We got some other episodes we got to drop here in the next couple of weeks that we kind of slacked on this summer. We got some shorts on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook. Where else? We're at YouTube. We got shorts, long form stuff on our kind of stuff too. Man, TikTok crazy. By the way, I don't know if y'all ever go in there and just read the comments. Raph, I suggest you don't. I don't know if you're on there.
I'm trying to stay off of TikTok.
I think we're gonna stop posting our stuff on TikTok, honestly, man. Because
that's hilarious.
This mean. That's all it is. People being mean.
People are
right. We just trying to tell the truth, God. How we as men are to live for God and to honor God with our lives.
Yeah,
that's all we trying to do.
We need to be in those dark spaces, man. I feel like people aren't gonna get it, but I definitely appreciate it.
Somebody might get digitally, hands laid on them in Jesus' name.
Ah.
Cool. Thank y'all again for tuning in this episode of the Man to Man podcast. Our goal is to be back within 2 weeks, and we're gonna go on to chapter 6. We talk about acts of service. So love y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Peace.